Yes, it is the week of 420, and I couldn't be more excited to get some insurance and cannabis specialists in to talk shop. I got Lee Woodruff and Erich Schutz, both with JenCap Holdings and doing cannabis insurance brokerage. These guys, when they're talking about surplus and brokerage, when I can't find a standard carrier as me as an agent to place a risk, I go to guys like Lee and Erich to go try to find a carrier who will. And they assist me throughout that process and give me a lot of the technical side of things and aware me of the exposures that these hairier risks, as Lee will say, it might have. And do you guys think, either one of you could take this question, do you guys think that competition trend will continue to be more and more players entering the market as we see more loss history on these kind of businesses, and cannabis around the national and by state level becomes more of a regular thing?
Yeah, I definitely would say, there's going to be more carriers entering the industry. There's a bipartisan bill right now, the Claim Act, which basically would allow cannabis companies, the insured and the carriers. It would basically provide some protection and availability of insurance products without the scrutiny of the federal government coming in and basically it's still federally illegal, but it's going to protect them and protect the insurance companies. So we think that will eventually lead to more carriers getting into the space. It's probably going to take a year or two for carriers to kind of get up and running, and then at the same time they're still going to have to file their forms. A lot of the admitted companies look to file their forms. So it's going to definitely take some ramp up period, but yeah, we're going to see more carriers getting involved. Whether the products are adequate in providing, competitive premiums and, good coverage, that, will be something we'll have to look at, but we're definitely going to see more competition entering the space.
Add to that real quick, with some of the bills that are in legislation, safe banking and the Claims Act that Lee mentioned, we're going to see a big surge in capital on both sides of the fence. The insurance operators, carrier side, and also the actual cannabis operators. It's going to change the landscape, and really, where we're going is this will be a product that's not in the scary, hairy world that Lee and I live in. It's, it will be a surplus lines play for the most part for a very long time, and a lot of it will be, but there's going to be retail shops, and they're already, getting there where there are programs where they're carving out a little bit of area where you can have that nice Main Street admitted coverage that your basic mercantile risk has now, and really they should. So there's no reason why we can't get there. I think we need to just clear up some of the legislative and legal hurdles that are just making people fearful. And if you're a big national insurance carrier, are you going to risk it all for, jumping into a small cannabis book? Probably not. But once we remove some of those legal restrictions and hurdles that some are perceived, some are real, the fear of the unknown is too great for too many investors. So they won't want to stay away, but it's becoming so normalized on the regulatory side and on the Main Street side and individual operators. It's coming very soon, and it's going to make life better for all of us, because the coverage needs to be better and the pricing should be more affordable.
What about one question I had of where do you see potential for growth within the cannabis industry? Are you guys seeing, obviously all across the board, a ton of growth potential, but is there any certain kind of class of cannabis business that you guys are seeing really take off right now, whether it be cultivators or transportation businesses or dispensaries themselves?
Yeah, for sure. And the transportation side of cannabis is newer. A lot of states didn't legislate delivery early on. Some states allowed it because of COVID. So that's an area where the coverage is not quite as robust as a regular retail operation with no delivery. So not going back a few years, it's like before. Not as many carriers, not as good a coverage. But back to your question about potential growth opportunities, I'm always going to answer from a Main Street investor side, and I'd say it's the ancillary businesses. I love a good non-leaf touching business that makes the containers for extracts, or the child-proof containers that are compostable, things like that. That's where I see a lot of growth and opportunity, because the regulatory environment can greatly change most of my insured's lives. If the Fed legalizes cannabis, makes it a Schedule II controlled substance, that will change things greatly. So I see the ancillary businesses are ones that really have the stay power, because they're always going to need the containers. They're always going to need the security services. They're always going to need the heat sensors, the cameras, the lights. So that's where I see a lot of growth. And I think it's also kind of an untapped area where folks are always swinging for the fences, whether it's from an insurance standpoint, trying to land an account as an agent or an investor. They want the big grows, they want the extractors, but there's a lot of good opportunity in those companies and a lot of good intellect. So I would definitely keep an eye on those. And we're seeing, like I said, growth on, the insurance side too. Also extraction. That's where the big money is, in my opinion, in the cannabis industry. There are plenty of people that can grow it. There's plenty of people that can sell it. There's not as many that can process it and turn it into another product that's useful. And I find that the shops that are going fastest and doing the biggest things are the ones that had the biggest foothold and control in extraction, whether they had other, they're vertically integrated, meaning they had the grow, the extraction, and the retail, or they just said, you know what, we're going to buy wholesale cannabis from a grower. We're going to process it for them, extract it, sell it back to them, or sell it to a retailer. Those are the guys that are printing money faster than anyone else in the business, in my opinion. So that's where I see a lot of growth from an insurance standpoint and from an investment standpoint.